Por primera vez, el jefe paramilitar Salvatore Mancuso admite públicamente que con el dinero que le pagaban las multinacionales cometían asesinatos.
Sí, las multinacionales le deben una verdad al mundo y al país. Le pongo el caso específico de Urabá como ejemplo, donde las multinacionales bananeras todas le pagaban 3 centavos de dólar a la autodefensa. Y hay que entender el momento. Estaban a merced de la guerrilla, desamparadas por las fuerzas militares y la institucionalidad colombiana. Nosotros empezamos a combatir ese fenómeno guerrillero, estábamos dando excelentes resultados y vinieron a pedir apoyo. En base a esos apoyos y acuerdos a los que llegamos, pagaban 3 centavos de dólar a través de la Convivir Papagayo.
Aunque usted no lo llamara delito, ¿se cometieron delitos con esos recursos?
Nosotros en ese momento, y siempre lo consideramos dentro del conflicto, acciones de guerra.
Crímenes.
Hoy la justicia lo considera crímenes. Nosotros en ese momento lo consideramos acciones de guerra.
Le cambio la pregunta. ¿Ustedes mataban con esa plata?
Nosotros dimos de baja a guerrilleros
con esa plata
en el fenómeno que estuvimos enfrentando violento en este país con ese dinero.
Mancuso confiesa que
doing business abroad are enormous, but so are the risks. And over the past 25 years, no place has been more perilous than Colombia, a country that is just beginning to emerge from the throes of civil war and narco-terrorism. Chiquita Brands International of Cincinnati, Ohio, found out the hard way. It made millions growing bananas there, only to emerge with its reputation splattered in blood, after acknowledging that it had paid nearly $2 million in protection money to a murderous paramilitary group that's killed or massacred thousands of people. Now the Colombian government is talking about extraditing Chiquita executives to Colombia, and investigators in Bogota and on Capitol Hill are looking at other U.S. companies that may have done the same thing.
From the air, the plains of the Urubá region are carpeted with the lush foliage of banana plantations, which have long provided a livelihood for the people of northern Colombia. And for the better part of a century, its best-known product has been the Chiquita banana.
I'm Chiquita Banana, won't you come with me to the bank of bananas, nature's treasury?
But since the 1980s, the business of bananas has been much less festive and punctuated with gunfire. First, the area was taken over by Marxist guerrillas called the FARC, whose ruthlessness at killing and kidnapping was exceeded only by the private paramilitary army that rose up to fight them. Chiquita found itself trying to grow bananas in the middle of a war, in which the Colombian government and its army was of no help.
These were lands where there was no law. It was impossible for the government to protect employees.
Fernando Aguirre, who became Chiquita's CEO long after all this happened, says the company was forced to pay taxes to the guerrillas when they controlled the territory in the late 80s and early 90s, and when the paramilitaries, known as the AUC, moved in 1997, they demanded the same thing.
It was a dilemma about having literally a gun pointed to your head.
Las bananeras todas le pagaban 3 centavos de dólar a la autodefensa. Y hay que entender el momento. Estaban a merced de la guerrilla, desamparadas.
You have someone who says either you pay me or I'm going to kill you or I'm going to kill your employees.
Did the paramilitary state specifically to you that if you didn't make the payments, your people would be killed?
There was a very, very strong signal that if the company would not make payments, things would happen. And since they had already killed at least 50 people of the employees of the company, it was clear to everyone there that these guys meant business.
Chiquita only had a couple of options, and none of them were particularly good. It could refuse to pay the paramilitaries and run the risk that its employees could be killed or kidnapped. It could pack up and leave the country altogether and abandon its most profitable enterprise, or it could stay and pay protection, and in the process help finance the atrocities that were being committed all across the countryside.
These were extortion payments. Either you paid or your people get killed.
And you decided to pay?
And the company decided to pay, absolutely.
So there was no doubt in your mind that these were very bad people?
Absolutely. Absolutely, no doubt.
Just how bad was already becoming evident. The paramilitaries, who were funded initially by large landowners and later by the cocaine trade, not only drove the Marxist guerrillas from the area, they tried to eliminate anyone who might have leftist sympathies, from labor leaders to school teachers. Sometimes entire villages were wiped out in the most grisly fashion. Gloria Cortez was the mayor of Apartado, and witnessed much of it with their own eyes.
Yo fui una alcaldesa.
I was a mayor whose job was just to gather the dead.
In 1996, she went to this school to talk to the children about the violence that surrounded them. And while she was there, the paramilitaries arrived and murdered a 12-year-old boy, whose only crime had been to announce their presence.
Le cortan la cabeza.
They cut off his head and threw the head at us.
Yo entré en pánico.
I went into a state of panic. They were there for 4 hours with their weapons, firing shots toward the ceiling.
Vi cómo los animales se comían el cuerpo de la
100 girls and boys were with me.
Fueron escenas
The
de...
children did not scream. They were in shock.
Did they say anything to you?
No.
No,
Su lenguaje,
their language was death.
su señal...
Their message was that if they could do this to
Con
children,
los niños,
they could do it to me.
podían hacer conmigo.
As the atrocities piled up all across the country, Chiquita continued to make the payments to the paramilitaries, viewing itself as a victim of the violence, not a facilitator. But all of that changed in 2001, when the U.S. government designated the paramilitaries a terrorist organization, making any kind of financial assistance to the group, coerced or otherwise, a felony. Yet Chiquita continued to make the payments for another 2 years, claiming it missed the government's announcement.
It was in the newspapers. It was in the Cincinnati Enquirer, which is where your company headquarters is. It was in the New York Times. I mean, this is a big part of your business, doing business in Colombia. How did you miss it?
Well, again, I don't know what happened during that time frame, frankly. What I know is all the data shows that the company, the moment it learned that these payments were illegal in the United States, that's when they decided to self-disclose to the Department of Justice.
By self-disclose, he means that Chiquita, on the advice of its attorneys, turned itself into the Justice Department. And one of the first things Aguirre did when he became CEO was to stop the payments and sell the company's Colombian subsidiary. Last year, the company pled guilty to a felony and agreed to pay a $25 million fine. But that wasn't the end of its legal problems.
This company has blood on its hands.
Attorney Terry Collingsworth has filed one of 4 separate lawsuits that have been filed against Chiquita, seeking money for the families of Colombians killed by the paramilitaries. He says the money Chiquita paid for 7 years may have kept its employees safe, but it also helped buy weapons and ammunition that were killing other people.
Are you saying that Chiquita was complicit in these massacres that took place down there?
Absolutely. If you provide knowing substantial assistance to someone who then goes out and kills someone or terrorizes or tortures someone, you're also guilty.
And you believe that Chiquita knew that this money that they were paying was being used to go into the villages and massacre people?
If they didn't, they would be the only ones in the whole country of Colombia who didn't think that.
You're not saying that Chiquita wanted these people to be killed?
No, they were indifferent to it. Instead of wanting those people dead, they were willing to accept that those people would be dead in order to keep their banana operation running profitably and making all the money that they did in Colombia.
You think they should have just picked up and left?
Yes.
It's easy for a lawyer to give that type of advice after the fact when you have more than